To understand the predicament that Big U faces today, being accused of leading one of LA's most notorious gangs, we have to go all the way back to the start to understand how these gangs, and Big U, ended up running the streets of LA. Like many black families during the mid-1900s, Big U's parents were part of the so-called Great Migration, where African Americans moved from the southern states to the northern states to escape the Jim Crow laws and look for a better life. They were originally from Mississippi before making their way north to Chicago. In Chi-Town, Big U's father would allegedly get affiliated with one of the original infamous gang leaders turned revolutionaries, Jeff Fort, co-founder of one of the earliest major black street gangs in America, the almighty Black Peastone Nation, cementing an early gang influence in the Henley family all the way back then. Big U's parents would ultimately get separated during their time in Chicago, and in 1966, his mother would move to Los Angeles shortly before his birth. The family settled in an area known as South Central, this being the area where most of the early black residents of LA would settle down. More specifically, they would stay around 81st and Hoover, and according to Big U, it was here where he would first begin to rep the Crips, the gang which was founded in South Central around 1969, around 3 years after Big U was born. Founded by Raymond Washington and Craig Craddock, the Crips then spread further west by Tukey Williams, who would found the West Side Crips.
Because in the area where we grew up at, we grew up over there, was already seeing Crip and was already seeing Hoover in it, and it meant something different.
Big U had a very large family tree who would all move to LA, and the majority of them would eventually settle near Slauson and Arlington, to an area that would eventually become associated with the Rollin 60s neighborhood Crips. But at the time, there would be earlier gangs.
We got here, the homies wasn't here yet, and then Van Ness Park didn't have no structure, nothing. And I think Bunchy, Big Bunchy was from Fruitown Brim. So it was like Fruitown Brim was in Van Ness Park. The 60s was on the verge of being formed, like it was just West Side Crips. And then it was West Side Crips and it was neighborhood Crips. And the neighborhood Crips was like down the line on the other side, like on Van Ness, like more towards where eventually like the hood took over. It was neighborhood Crips and West Side Crips.
This neighborhood is not only famous for being the home of the Rollin 60s, but also for being one of the main locations where the classic movie Boys in the Hood was filmed. Growing up, Big U would first become part of a small local clique from the immediate neighborhood called the AG, or Arlington Gang. Led by Big U's cousin Chili Capone, the group would eventually merge as part of the larger Rollin 60s, who became infamous around the city of LA.
We was at every party, we was at every club, we knew where every function we was there. And it was funny because dudes would be like, where y'all from? And we like, we from the AG. They're like, man, what's that? We're like, man, it's the AG, man, they know what's that. Then it's like, well, where is that at? Man, it's on Slauson and Arlington. Oh, well, y'all from the 60s. All right, fuck it, man, what is it, a problem? And then they would go from there.
Big U would get into trouble with the law from a young age, and already as a kid during the 70s, he claimed to have run with a car robbing crew, eventually getting sent to juvenile detention and spending a period of time on the run from whatever he'd done in LA and going back to live in Chicago with his father. But some years later, in 1979, one of the longest and bloodiest gang wars in LA history would start between the Rollin 60s and their former allies, the 8-Tray Gangster Crips. Sometime later during the early 80s, Big U's cousin and the leader of their AG clique, Chili Capone, would sadly be killed. Now, the more matured Big U would return to Los Angeles to seek vengeance, with Big U saying that at this time he graduated from fighting to guns, and he believed that a gun could get you anywhere you need to be in life. Standing at 6'2", Big U was an intimidating sight even without a gun, and he would still excel at fighting, which was the main way that the early gangs would settle their differences. One of the infamous places where this settling of scores would take place was at the World on Wheels skate rink, which was far away from the Rollin 60s hood, but where the members would nevertheless go to make their presence known. One particularly big brawl would make the Rollin 60s infamous throughout LA County took place on August 1986 during a Run DMC concert in the Long Beach area, where Rollin 60s would, according to Big U, attend purely to start a fight and establish their dominance. The fight would injure dozens of people and cause the LA Palladium to cancel Run DMC's next concert in fear of escalating gang tensions. During the 80s, the county jail would also become a familiar place for Big U as he was racking up some pretty serious charges, which according to the criminal complaint even included multiple first-degree murder charges and attempted murder of a peace officer, but it seemed that these charges back in these days would never stick. But his time in jail would also help him further spread his reputation as a fearless fighter and a charismatic leader. According to the FBI, it was during the 80s when Big U would rise to a prominent position in the Rollin 60s, earning a reputation of a violent enforcer who was willing to kill. One article about Big U stated that he became the lead man for the Rollin 60s and got shot 7 times in the process. And during this time in the late 80s, this was when the crack epidemic was beginning to reach its peak.
Today, there's a new epidemic. Smokable cocaine, otherwise known as crack. It is an explosively destructive and often lethal substance which is crushing its users. It is an uncontrolled fire.
Big U and the Rollin 60s would also partake in the lucrative drug trade. They would even begin to move dope from LA to other cities such as Minneapolis, Atlanta, and Chicago, where Big U would use his leadership skills to set up shops and take over street corners and influencing other out-of-state sets that banged under the banner of the Rollin 60 Crips too. This would also be a time when Big U would get his first experiences in the rap industry, as a rapper called Popper LQ would ask Big U to manage him, thinking that while Big U had no experience in the industry, he did have the qualities to be a manager and the respect of the streets. Big U's friend would also ask him to help managing a young, promising Rollin 60s rapper called Corrupt, who's now known for such West Coast classics as Seawalk and We Can Freak It, as well as being one half of the duo The Dog Pound with Daz Dillinger, the group founded by Snoop Dogg. Big U had also become a family man at this point, and according to himself, he was beginning to be 1 foot in and 1 foot out of the hustle game, but unfortunately for him, he would become wanted by the police, and in December 1991, he was arrested as part of a sting operation after attempting to rob 33 pounds of cocaine from an undercover agent, with Big U pulling a gun and attempting to rob the fake plug, leading to the cops that were watching nearby to rush in and bust him. For this, he was given a monster sentence of 23 years, with news reports at the time describing him as a leader, if not the top man of the Rollin 60s. This meant that during much of the golden years of hip-hop, Big U was behind bars, but he would spend his time inside continuing to develop his skills as a fighter and a leader. One story even circulated that he had apparently knocked somebody's eyeball out of their socket during a prison fight. Photos of Big U behind bars would circulate online as the years went by. During a Breakfast Club interview, Big U would even say that he was running the drug trade in the prison yard during this time.
Because I basically took over the whole little drug trade on the yard because I had money. So I came in and I bought all the guards who was bringing in.
But when he wasn't squabbling or selling drugs, apparently he was knuckling down and trying to also find positive influences behind the wall. During his long stint inside, he would meet people who would inspire him to evolve intellectually, such as Michael Harry O. Harris, a powerful LA figure who allegedly played a key role in helping Suge Knight found Death Row Records, and also played a part in the career of Denzel Washington. As a result, Big U would begin to read and write, as well as studying subjects like theology, as he would later recount in interviews. Meanwhile, on the outside, Corrupt would keep Big U's name alive in his music, shouting him out in songs like one of his biggest hits, We Can Freak It. Big U would also keep losing people close to him to the streets while he was inside, like his brother Dwayne Dupree, who worked as a bodyguard for the Dog Pound duo of Corrupt and Daz Dillinger and was sadly killed as gunmen opened fire outside of a recording studio. But Big U would eventually end up only doing 13 years in prison, getting out in 2004 at 37 years old, conveniently right as the Rollin 60s had become, quote, the largest black criminal street gang in the city of Los Angeles. However, Big U wouldn't lose sight of those positive influences that he had gleaned behind bars, and he decided to reinvent himself as a community advocate, starting his non-profit called Developing Options. Their website would claim that Big U started the organization because he wanted to provide the youth of his neighborhood the support that he didn't get when he was growing up. In 2025, the program claimed to have served over 6,000 people while having partnerships with hundreds of agencies. The website even boasts a 90% reduction in community gang violence, and the program has some major supporters, such as perhaps the most famous Crip in the world, Snoop Dogg. But Big U would also keep building his career in the music industry, and after getting released, Corrupt would introduce him to the head of Death Row Records, Suge Knight, who would help Big U financially to get back on his feet and take him under his wing as a mentor. The two became without a doubt the most respected, or at least the most feared duo that the hip-hop industry had ever seen. But Big U's ferocious attitude to the music industry would mirror Suge's approach, and unfortunately, this meant that for the artists that entered Big U's orbit, some would have runaway success, but others would seemingly suffer sudden and tragic downfalls, which of course brings us to the tragic story of Nipsey Hussle. After getting out of prison, notorious Rollin 60s neighborhood Crip, Big U, would learn how to play hardball in the music industry from none other than Suge Knight. The infamous blood who had ruled the West Coast rap game with an iron fist was rumored to have used murder and extortion tactic to get ahead in the music biz. From his violent altercations in the lead up to the death of NWA's Eazy-E to the rumored incident where Vanilla Ice was allegedly dangled off a balcony and forced to sign over his lucrative royalties, eventually though, the law and his enemies would catch up with Suge Knight's hardline tactics and crack down on his operation. But by the time Suge Knight's downfall had begun, Big U was already in the game and decided to spread his wings and do his own thing. Apparently whilst inside prison, Big U, along with his right-hand man, Mark Martin, aka Bear Claw, founded an independent record label, Unique Music, in 1996. Big U would use the label to scout potential up-and-coming musical talent, and his deep street connections would lead him to the paths of some of LA's most legendary rappers. It turned out that Big U's nephew actually knew a young, talented Rollin 60s rapper who went by the name Nipsey Hussle. Big U would begin to help Nipsey use using his many industry contacts, ultimately landing him a major spotlight with a verse on Tupac's 2006 posthumous album, Pac's Life. Nip featured with Young Dre and Tupac himself on the song International, which gave Nipsey's career a massive boost.
Him and Big Draws put that together, and LT Hutton. They really had a resume at that time to justify it, but he gave me a shot. And a lot of that was based on the relationship he had with Draws and Steve. And I remember buying the physical CD, seeing Tupac featuring Nipsey Hussle on the back of it. That was huge for me.
Big U later reposted a clip from a Diverse Mentality documentary on Nipsey, along with a caption saying that it was an honor to give him the shot. Big U was playing a major role in Nipsey's come-up, leading Nipsey to drop his first real single and music video titled Bullets Ain't Got No Names in 2006. Nipsey would get support from Big U through the creation of an entire Bullets Ain't Got No Name full-length mixtape series, but story has it that Nipsey wanted to leave a bad deal that he'd got into with Big U's unique label.
So I signed him to it. It was signed to a 10-year production contract, which started in 2009, which would end 2019.
Crazy.
Big U, on the other hand, has explained in the Drink Champs podcast that he stopped managing Nipsey after a promotional tour when police discovered drugs in one of their vehicles. And although someone would take the charges, Nipsey and others began acting differently towards Big U, which he interpreted as a breakdown in trust.
Radiator cap off, took the apart, stuck us in, I can't remember where we were, for 3 days. They took the and scanned it from the router to the tutor, found what they wanted on it, put it back together, gave it to us. I flew back home. When I fly home, we get hit. I get hit at home. They had 21 people, they think they got him. Anyway, make a long story short, he ended up turning himself in, take the case off all of us. He get life, right, for the drugs. When that happened, my team is acting weird. So I'm looking at Steve, I'm looking at Nip, man, get a paperwork from Sony so they can see that we leasing all this. They acting weird. So, me, I'm still kind of like, hey, I'm hot, hot and heavy, but I'm like, I can't with y'all. So you never see me on the tour no more.
And that's when the problem?
No problem never happened. Okay. We didn't have a problem.
Okay.
Wasn't nobody making no money.
Right.
But particularly after Big U's arrest, many have theorized that it may have been Big U who was using Nipsey's tours as a cover to smuggle drugs to different cities, and this was possibly making Nipsey nervous and looking for ways out.
I think Big U was using the tour bus, Nipsey's tour bus, to at least sometime or possibly do drug drop-offs, pick up money, and it was making Nipsey hot. He was seeing himself about to take off. He wanted no parts.
Whatever the case, after the two stopped working together, Big U wanted back some of his studio equipment so his son could also use them to record music, something which apparently angered Nipsey.
That's when they got upset, and he made the song. I don't rap,
that song never came out.
It did come out.
It did come out?
It did come out.
Oh.
It wasn't never pushed as a song, but it came out, and I don't rap, I scrap.
Disagreements would lead to Nipsey making a diss song about Big U, a song titled You Don't Got a Clue from his 2010 mixtape The Marathon, where Nipsey got some things off his chest, rapping how somebody, likely Big U, doesn't have a clue about what they want to do for Nip's career, saying that he's not going to stop for them and that he doesn't want somebody controlling him, rapping how he came up tough so he was never looking at Big U for a solution to his problems, and suggesting that his former team never really helped him push his career forward. Nip would rap F the middleman, and he would end his verse saying don't expect any favors from him because he wasn't given any favors. According to Loose Cannon, who's probably not the most reliable narrator, Big U would confront Nipsey about the track and challenge him to a fight, where Nipsey would then supposedly move and dance around Big U so fast that he would leave him exhausted, almost like a scene from an old school action comedy.
And he was like, hey, cuz, is this song about me? So Nipsey stood up or whatever and was like, yeah, cuz it's about you. So he was drinking some water out of a water bottle and he threw it on Nipsey, right? He was like, we're gonna have to go get down or whatever. So he thought Nipsey was gonna back down. Nipsey stood up and was like, okay, cuz, let's go get down. They were just dancing around or whatever like that. He was trying to get Nipsey or whatever, but Nipsey was just moving, dancing and stuff like that. And he couldn't hit Nipsey, so he got tired. So he knew he didn't get Nipsey the way he wanted to get Nipsey, right?
An unsatisfied Big U then allegedly got the whole gang involved, calling Nipsey up to get disciplined and allegedly beating him up before Black Sam fired into the air, stopping the fight, leading to police being called and breaking things up. Wack 100 would later claim that Big U actually knocked Nipsey Hussle out during their fight.
First time they first fall out, when they first got Nipsey signed, Nipsey come back, was a fallout. They went down, there was a fight, rumble happened. I believe Big U knocked Nipsey out. Black Sam comes out, fires 3-4 shots in the air. He's fresh out the penitentiary. Police sitting right across the street, they see it. They come in, they arrest everybody. Black Sam's on parole.
Now, there's some conflicting reasons circulating for this exact fight. It's been rumored that Nipsey Hussle has a daughter by a mother that was allegedly Big U's niece, or at least a close family friend. There was allegedly an incident circulating in a Reddit post where it was claimed that Nipsey actually beat up another man who had been dating his baby's mother after they split up, with Nip administering this beatdown because the man was apparently creating an unsafe environment for their daughter, with it being believed that the woman might have even got harmed herself in the scuffle, leading Big U to be furious at Nipsey. Ultimately though, Nipsey and Big U would eventually squash their beef and didn't have any more public animosity in the years that followed. But Nipsey's brother Black Sam seemingly always had an issue with Big U, and apparently this was reciprocated.
And then I'm gonna keep it 100. Me and his brother wasn't cool. Me and his brother wasn't the best of friends. You gotta understand, like I'm gonna have friends that my mama ain't gonna like. I'm gonna have friends that my brother's not gonna like. You gonna have people that your people don't like. You know what I'm saying?
Nipsey's Rollin 60s gang ties would be the ultimate liability throughout his career to the very end. A planned private performance in 2010 saw a massive bust on the Rollin 60s members that he was affiliating with.
People under arrest after police raid a nightclub where dozens of members of an LA street gang were partying.
Police received information that gang members of the Rollin 60s, a violent South LA gang, would be holding a private party here at the Platinum Club here in Studio City. So they decided it would be a good time to do a gang sweep. Now take a look. It all went down around 2 in the morning. The Platinum Club was surrounded by dozens of officers. They arrested about 40 people they say are gang members of the gang Rollin 60s. Officers say they learned of the so-called hood party several days before the big event. Now outside of the club, the marquee had a sign there that said who was headlining the party. They are Nipsey Hussle and Dealmakers International. You can also see the number 6x10. Now, police say that was the secret Rollin 60s gang sign. An officer from North Hollywood was the first to approach the front door of the club, and he says that he was rushed by a group of people inside the club. He called for help, and officers from all areas responded immediately. Now, officers say this gang sweep will clearly cripple the illegal activities of the Rollin 60s gang, at least for a while.
As time went on, Nipsey would do more things that reportedly angered Big U, like bringing Treetop Pyru rapper YG to the Rollin 60s hood for the music video for the song Sitches Ain't Bit in 2011. Apparently Nipsey had to fight multiple Rollin 60s after this perceived violation, but this didn't stop his role, and later Nipsey would even return the favor, attending YG's hood to film the music video for I'm a Thug that featured Meek Mill. This was a video that ironically had footage of fellow Rollin 60 Brick Baby getting arrested. But anyway, as Nip's career grew, it seemed that Big U's stance towards Nipsey had softened, and he was showing him respect publicly, with Big U being seen doing a speech in Nipsey's honor in 2018 during an event for his Developing Options non-profit, where rap heavyweights like T.I. and Wiz Khalifa were also in attendance.
Look who came through.
Yeah, you know, I got my all black on, man. You know,
all black everything.
Steve Maniac, Lil Bill, day one right here, you know.
Big U, what up, baby?
Be you and Lil Bill. Sure.
You need that. Yeah, that's legendary.
Woo! Remember that. He did what no other rappers do today. He sold his own music. He sold his own music. So when I came along and Steve came along, we had a formula that merged with what he do, but he outworked any artist I've seen. I'm talking about business-wise. I'm not talking about on the mic. Because if you notice, this man is a more professional than 90% of the dudes who are trying to grow to his level. But I'm saying that to our young babies. To a T, he outworked a whole lot of people. And this is the reason why we are giving him the award, the Businessman Award, because he really exudes everything that you need to exercise in business. So let's give this man a hand and clap it up for him. I'm talking about, I came to his house and he lived in all places in A-Train neighborhood and was really, he really had a mic in his closet and was recording his own self. Remember that. And
at one point, Big U would even crip walk on stage, and Nipsey would in return honor Big U in his speech, saying how everybody in the hood saw him as a leader.
And see what that turned into, him putting pressure on us to just stay focused you know, standing in front of us as young dudes from the area. And always, I remember he like, you know, it's not gonna be one room I walk into that my homeboys can't walk into with me. And I always respected and looked up to him as a leader and as somebody that was just a real man. And I love to see everybody out here tonight dressed up, looking good. You know, I think we gotta give him a round of applause as well. And like I said, I love you, bro. We're gonna keep pushing. Day one. Thank y'all.
Nipsey was having massive success, culminating in the release of his critically acclaimed 2018 debut studio album, Victory Lap, where he would even shout out Big U, aka Big Draws.
And I'm eating breakfast.
My shirt drunk, yeah, all that. I've been working. You know, I ain't saved everything, man. Victory Lap coming soon.
He wasn't gonna save anyway.
I wasn't, but I was gonna change my shirt though. I'm going to, you know what I'm saying? But I'm working.
We will let y'all hear some music, but you gotta wait to pay for it. Ain't no free no more.
It's coming.
And you ain't downloading it, we're gonna put a tag. If you steal the music,
you up.
Coming to your house and putting that
car wash when you got your tent set up. We gonna beat your.
But in March 2019, Nipsey allegedly angered Big U once again by bringing DJ Khaled to the 60s hood and not asking permission. They were there to shoot a music video for Khaled's song Higher that featured Nipsey and John Legend. Allegedly, Big U sent Rollin 60s members to the shoot to cause trouble, causing Nipsey and Khaled to have to finish the shoot in a parking lot. TMZ, on the other hand, claimed from their sources at the video shoot that Nipsey had seemingly received threats on his life before the shoot had even taken place, and that he was apparently prepared with an exceptionally large security team. They would also claim that it was actually during the filming at the parking structure in Inglewood where Nipsey's team were concerned about somebody from the local Bloods coming to kill him. Some people online would also claim that Big U was actually cool with Nipsey at this time, but it was really a bunch of younger Rollin 60s members that just wanted to rob DJ Khaled, causing trouble, with there also being reports of some friction between some Rollin 60s and Inglewood Blood members that might have caused some tension at the shoot. Nipsey's brother, Black Sam, would later seemingly confirm that someone had indeed pressed them at the video shoot, but wouldn't specify exactly who it was.
Not to get into too much detail, but there was a lot of big politics getting into certain people. You know, Hussle had DJ Khaled in the hood. Not to be speaking too much on it, but we came frontline like we always do, and you know, gonna know we gonna crash out behind it. We not playing, ain't nobody saying nothing to Khaled, ain't nobody doing nothing to Khaled, and he's straight. And Hussle frontline that, and you know, we felt like certain people didn't like that.
But whatever the case, only a few days later, Nipsey would tragically be gunned down in front of his Marathon clothing store in the Rollin 60s hood, less than a mile away from Big U's childhood stomping grounds on Arlington Avenue. Nipsey was gunned down by a man named Eric Holder, known in the streets as Cuz, a fellow member of the Rollin 60s who was allegedly mad at Nipsey for accusing him of being a snitch. Eric Holder is also an old close friend of one of the other names mentioned in the new RICO case, the rapper and No Jumper host Brick Baby, real name Zaire Mitchell, another 60 that uses the moniker as a street name.
That day he got put on, we came up with the name. That was like a name that was really made for him. But he can't come in and be big. So being my big homie, that's, you know what I'm saying, that's big, and I'm little, you gonna be baby.
But anyway, following Nipsey's murder, different conspiracy theories would begin to spread about his death, suggesting that it might have been more than just a random argument with a low-level Rollin 60s member. One of these theories being that Big U had somehow been involved in the murder himself, particularly as he would seemingly tell different versions about where he had been the day of the murder, as well as having a motive due to the rumors that Nipsey had allegedly refused to re-sign a contract to be under Big U's label.
And for those who don't know, Big U is said to be responsible for the death of Nipsey Hussle. This is what a lot of people are saying, and it's because he keeps changing his story about the day that Nipsey Hussle died.
We actually was on 6th Ave with 100 cars. We got all the streets blocked. We waiting on UK to come out the house. Everybody phone blowing up. Nip got hit, Nip got hit. We flying up there. We fly up there and we see the scene.
And then like later on, he would forget he said that, and then he'd go on live on IG and say that he wasn't even in town the day that Nipsey died.
Y'all was accusing me of I ain't even do. And what's funny, I wasn't even in town. So figure that one out. But I ain't gonna trust it.
And Nipsey Hussle was signed to Big U, to Big U's record label, and that contract was due to be up, and Nipsey Hussle wasn't going to re-sign. So that provided motive, okay?
I signed him to it. It was signed to a 10-year production contract, which started in 2009, which would end 2019.
Crazy.
Big U reportedly also didn't attend Nipsey's funeral, and an IG Live sometime after the murder would appear to show Big U laughing when somebody commented justice for Nip, and going on to say that people are waiting for him to do an interview.
Yeah, we waiting. What you waiting on, though? You don't know what you waiting on, though. What you waiting on? You got to tell us what you waiting on. Damn, my mama broke you with a justice for them.
Or your boy would have been there like, yeah, you got it.
Everybody that was showing this shit. You did. You did.
However, the day after Nipsey was killed, Big U would post what seemed to be a heartfelt tribute to Nipsey, with a caption that said how hurt he was at the news, whilst also interestingly pointing out that the last time he spoke to Nipsey was 3 days ago at the DJ Khaled video shoot, something that no one really publicly knew at that time, with Big U saying in the caption that when they were at the video shoot together, they had spoken about building a school, which some have taken as Big U actually trolling, given the fact that it was rumored that a much more tense conversation had taken place at that shoot. Even back then, people were getting straight in the comments on Big U's post, saying that he was the one who set Nipsey up to get killed. And as time went on, Big U would post more tributes to Nipsey to his Instagram page, with yet more comments continuing to reference a possible setup and the DJ Khaled music video. Less than a week after Nipsey's murder, Big U took to Instagram to announce a peace march in the hood in Nipsey's memory.
Greetings to everybody. To get this message today, we are having a visual for Nipsey Hussle at 3 to 5 today for all the different gangs in LA that want to come out and support. Over the last 2 days, we have been having meetings amongst us, A-Trays, Rollin 60s, Hoovers, East Coasters, Bounty Hunters, and everybody like mine to come together. We're going to ask that everybody come to Crenshaw and Slauson, be there by 3. We want everybody to park in the Ralph's parking lot. We're going to be escorting everybody from the Ralph's parking lot to the memorial. It's not open to the public. It's only for LA street gangs, Bloods, Crips with the like mind and want to support and pay homage to one of our lost soldiers, one of our good brothers and teachers and leaders. So it's open from 3 to 5.
And this indeed went ahead. Over a year after Nipsey was killed, Big U proudly showed off that he had met and recorded a podcast with DJ Khaled and Fat Joe, posting a video where he seemed to be very happy to be with DJ Khaled, specifically with Khaled returning the love and shouting out Big U.
That's right, love, Big U. There you go. That's legend.
And clips were posted by Big U's label, Unique Music, with captions saying that they miss Nipsey. After Nipsey's death, there was a post on Unique Music's Instagram page claiming that Big U was the person who had introduced Nipsey to the world, but people in the comments would continue to claim that Big U was responsible for what happened, once again suggesting that Nipsey was set up by Big U for trying to leave him behind. After Nipsey's death, Big U posted Nipsey along with references to his Unique label numerous times, including one ominous post where he put up a video of Nipsey saying that he can't follow other people, they should be following him.
Blind can't lead the blind, bro.
Yes,
Somebody
sir.
gotta have a vision.
Yes, sir.
And you gotta follow who got the vision. You know what I'm saying? So
Yes,
if you
sir.
stuck on stupid, I ain't gonna judge you or have no disrespect for you, but I'm
gonna be over here.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna follow you or take heed to your opinion. You're gonna have to follow what I'm doing.
I heard
and
that.
after a while, that way of thinking versus this way of thinking, more people lean toward this way because of the results.
And in the 2025 indictment, it was claimed that in a monitored conversation, Big U even suggested that he was the biggest Rollin 60 member ever, specifically saying that he was bigger than Nipsey Hussle. But despite the passing years, the rumors of Big U's involvement never went away, and people online would continue to speculate endlessly about potential conspiracy surrounding Nipsey's passing. Big U would comment on the rumors directly on numerous occasions, like in a 2022 No Jumper appearance, where he said that he was just associated with the murder of Nipsey because he's a very famous Rollin 60s member, and suggesting that he had a great relationship with Nipsey, and people are just spreading the rumor for money and clout.
Like how we was beefing when all his songs, every album he put out, since we had the so-called altercation, he shouted me out.
However, in 2024, Nipsey's brother Black Sam would do a podcast with Big Boy, alluding to someone being sent to kill Nipsey, rather than this just being an isolated crash out.
It as random as what the public thought it was. Like, Nip seen somebody, Eric, and talked, and
I mean, you know, he already got convicted, so for me, without going into too many details, so for me, he felt he was supposed to do a job, or somebody sent him or whatever. It just don't make no sense. It's not random, you know. it's gonna come to the light.
Loose Cannon, a former ally of Big U and one of the co-defendants in the upcoming case, actually revealed on No Jumper that Big U had told him Nipsey was dead before it even happened, with Loose Cannon saying that Big U had prior knowledge of Nipsey's death before it all went down, mentioning on the phone to him, which led him to call Nipsey Hussle moments before the shooting took place.
He FaceTimed me. So he FaceTimed me and stuff like that. He was like, Nipsey just got killed. I'm like, sick, so I didn't hear that. So I hang up with him. I called Nipsey and I'm like, Nipsey, what's up? He was like, oh, what's up with it?
Nipsey answered.
Nipsey answered. He answered the phone. And I was like, I love you, cuz, or whatever like that.
Did you tell him the call you just got? Or you didn't even mention it?
I didn't mention it. And that's what fucked me up, because my cousin is Nipsey baby mama. You get what I'm saying? So it was like, I could have probably stopped it, or it had it.
Stop what? You mean that?
No, because listen. So after I talked to Nipsey, and I was like, "Yeah, I love you, cuz," or whatever like that. I'll see you later, or whatever. So I hung up the phone. I thought Big U gave wrong information. 30 minutes later, the homies blowing me up like they just killed Nipsey, and so I'm like,
wait. You get a call from Big U telling you Nipsey just got killed.
Yeah.
You panic, called Nip. Nip answered the phone.
Yeah, and
you
we
like
were just talking on regular. So it's like at the end of the day, I didn't even think about it, because
you don't even warn him that you got that call from dude.
No, because their relationship was so fucked up. It'd be like they be hot one minute, then they be cold the next minute, and then they be lukewarm. Like you
and
just
30 minutes after you get out the phone with Nip, he get killed.
Yeah, I got it.
So you think he hit you a little too early?
This clip actually led to a cease and desist being served on No Jumper, and Adam22 being advised to remove the content from his channel.
So everybody knows I got a cease and desist about the Loose Cannon interview that I did with Whack 100, and a cease and desist showed up from the one and only. Never thought my life would go in this direction. Never thought I would be getting a legal notice from the big man himself.
Oh,
Big
yeah, I just seen
you.
Big U said he ain't feeling that
Big
shit.
Lucifer.
Big Lucifer.
Is that a diss? I think that's a whack term. I don't want to say that. So from our perspective, we have decided to back away from this. This is not a narrative that I was really interested in pushing in the first place. The idea that Big U had any sort of, criminal doings in his adult life, or that, that he was involved with anything with Nipsey. This is not something I ever really bought in on. It was kind of a surprise to me that it got trotted out on the podcast. I don't have to make this kind of statement about why we decided to remove it or whatever, but I did ultimately make the decision to take it down.
Interestingly though, when the 2025 criminal complaint dropped, it would turn out that Loose Cannon wasn't just anybody claiming Big U's involvement, but he was in fact an alleged former enforcer for Big U, conducting robberies on his behalf as part of an extortion racket, later described by the criminal complaint as Big U Enterprises. But even more crazy, even before the criminal complaint revealed these bombshell allegations, Loose Cannon would openly tell stories about these robberies that he did for Big U on the No Jumper podcast for the whole world to hear. When the 2025 criminal complaint dropped on Big U, the world will be introduced to a dark trail of alleged crimes. But the complaint itself wraps up all of these activities under one umbrella organization, with the so-called Big U Enterprise allegedly engaging in an array of criminal activity, including extortion, robbery, murder, human trafficking, wire fraud, bank fraud, other financial crimes, obstruction of justice, illegal debt collection, illegal gambling, and conspiracy to commit fraud. Some of these crimes seem absolutely crazy in the modern day and make you think more of the Black Hand Mafia extortion scene in the Godfather movies than gangbangers in South Central LA. In fact, Big U actually previously referred to his life as a modern day mafia story, but things were much more complicated than that, because to cloak this alleged criminal activity, according to the complaint, Big U's non-profit was at the front and center, and this, along with his persona he presented to the public as a reformed gang member, actually allowed Big U to navigate both the criminal underworld and the halls of legitimate power and business at the same time. His non-profit umbrella organization, Developing Options, which controls a number of seemingly innocent entities attempting to do positive work in the community, actually received over $500,000 from the GRID program controlled by the City of LA, with a total of over $2.3 million from the City of LA being handed over, hundreds of thousands of which Big U allegedly withdrew personally as a salary. He would also allegedly embezzle funds that were meant for community work, in a practice where he would solicit donations from celebrities for his charities, then taking the money for himself personally. The criminal complaint later called Big U's organizations a front and part of a plan for Big U to control the streets of LA undercover, and according to wiretaps, Big U's persona as a reformed community activist was just a facade, and behind the scenes, he was openly claiming how he was still the same man that they said he once was. Big U was also heard on a wiretap saying that no one can beef with him because he'd kill them, apparently even later bragging to someone about being the only gangster from his era still murdering people in the modern day and age. Big U's alleged right-hand man, an enforcer, and underboss was a man named Sylvester Robinson, aka Vay, with Mark Martin, aka Bearclaw, being a trusted lieutenant. Big U's name and crew pulled a lot of weight and called a lot of shots in LA for decades, particularly when it came to the nightlife. There's one infamous story about Big U getting into a fight outside of a nightclub in 2014 and a rumored deadly wave of violence and extortion that came soon after. In a video posted by TMZ, Big U is seen trying to enter a club with his friend who's being turned away, who then attacks the security. Big U decides to back up his friend, getting into the fight and ending up being floored by the Samoan security team, being left bloodied and carried away by the police.
Hey, you, Mike. Hey, just stay down. Hold him. He's good. You, Mike. Hey, close your gate, Mike. Close it up. Hey, close it up. Get him inside.
Get him out. Get him out. Get him out. Get him out right now. Go. Get him out.
Be cool. Just be cool.
I don't want him in this. I don't. Get out.
All right, cool. Get him out here. Back up. Come on. You, come on. You.
Big U, you straight, girl?
Huh?
No, he just swung at my guard. Leave him on the ground.
No, he goes to jail. He goes to jail tonight.
Come on. Nothing to see, guys. Let's go.
Hey guys, back up. Come on, what are you doing?
Big U later claimed that he had gone head-to-head with 15 Samoan security guards.
At the supper club up here. We was going in. It's only 30, 40 minutes left from the club. This dude hired something. Your homeboy hired. Yeah, they won't let him in. I was like, I'm gonna stay out here with him. He just get off on the security guard for no apparent reason.
Get off, meaning?
He just fired on the dude.
Whoa!
Get off, you go.
All the security together is me by myself.
Big U, you straight, girl?
So I made the assessment. It's 15 of them. You fit to get your whooped. But how the rules go, I'm gonna get down where I'm mad at. I took flight. So when I'm on the ground, I'm wrestling with him. One dude came and kicked me. If you look at the film, he kicked me in the side of the face.
Back up. Come on. Hey, give me one fight diving over here. Back up. Back up, guys.
So the blood, while I'm on my back, wrestling with the blood filter in my eyes. I couldn't see.
Hey, guys, back up. Come on, what are you doing?
I think I did pretty good, me versus 15. You know what I'm saying?
Big U would also claim that in the aftermath, hundreds of goons from different gangs came to Hollywood following that incident to back him up.
And dudes from every set in LA really stood up and was offended by what they had seen. My homies is Bloods, that's Cubs, that's from every set was upset.
In a subsequent video, Big U was seen bloodied and in cuffs as rappers The Game and T.I., along with Big U's son and an army of 6-0s, square up to the police, initially believing that it was the police that brutalized Big U.
Are you trigger happy too? We not bothering you. You trigger happy? Hey, TMZ, put it on. TMZ, hey, get the camera on Big U. Hey, listen, right now. Police didn't do it. Club security did.
Hey, T.I. Who did it? T.I.
Police didn't do it.
T.I.
Who did it? Who did it? Club security did it.
But after the crowd realized that the security were responsible for jumping Big U, they begun to confront and scuffle with the security, with one of the people personally involved in beating up Big U taking off running from the mob.
Who did that to you? Hold on. Who did that to you? Please. Who did it? Who did it? Who did it?
you up. Your people say Big U. Who did it? Who told me to do it? Put it down. Put it down. Put it down.
Hey, Scott, I got you.
Then, Rapper the Game even squares up to security himself, ready to fight.
Look at Game sweating the security right now on the police.
Then, what sounded like young Rollin 60s members ready to crash out would escalate things further, looking for those responsible and saying that they had never seen Big U in that sort of state, with everyone trying to remove them from the situation before things escalate and get deadly.
I'm talking to you, 6-0 kid. I ain't never seen my like that. Who hit you though? Who hit you? Hey, what happened? No, I can calm the whole situation down. What happened? I can tell you.
Look, it's a whole Mexican standoff right now. We got a whole Mexican standoff with Game's crew and the police.
The Game would still try and square up to the security, who is saying that Big U has to go to jail tonight.
Watch your back, watch your back.
Watch out.
The whole situation was a mess, and according to one rumor, this actually led to a gang war between the Rollin 60s, backed up by other gangs, and the Samoan security gangs that run the nightclub doors in Hollywood, with Big U saying in his Hip Hop Uncovered series how things got so serious that 4 to 5 people were expected to die over this, with some Redditors even taking this to mean that 5 people had indeed lost their lives as part of this beef.
It was a lot of violence against just clubs and security against clubs, and people expected 4 or 5 people to die. We got so many people dying over bull crap. I didn't really want to add to that. That's not the legacy I wanted to have. That was a misunderstanding, you know what I mean? Went too far. So we ended up shutting Hollywood down. We had to meet with the powers that be.
Now, I wasn't able to find any evidence or cases relating to murders that happened in Hollywood following this incident, but apparently after things reached a boiling point in the streets, the Supper Club and Big U had a meeting to try and resolve things. This ended in the Supper Club allegedly cutting Big U a check for $200,000 and doing a food drive for his community movement.
You know, we had sat down with the owners of the Supper Club. They wrote me a check for over $200,000. We used about $70,000, $80,000 to do a food giveaway, toys. It was amazing.
The Supper Club's giving all these free toys and food. They're underprivileged, right? And so I start talking to Big U, the organizer of the event. How come the Supper Club was so keen to be involved?
Well, we've been messing with them since back in, the incident we had. They want to reach back, reach out and help the community. For me, being able to take something bad that happened for me and turn it into a positive, instead of continue to let it be a negative, that's what I'm all about.
Supper Club later put out a public statement suggesting that Big U was the victim of a rogue security officer who took things too far, saying that Big U was not arrested and had no part in the violence, with club owners distancing themselves from the security that were working that night and promising that they would never book them again. Clearly, Big U was flesh and blood, like any man, and could also be caught slipping, but just as clearly from what came after, he was a formidable force in the streets who wouldn't accept this kind of violation lightly, and nightclubs would seemingly be a regular target for extortion attempts by the Big U enterprise. The 2025 criminal complaint would outline a situation where Big U shook down club owners, promising them T.I. and Wiz Khalifa to turn up to an event in exchange for 33% of the profits. These artists never turned up, but Big U demanded a $30,000 payment from the club, plus more of the profits, despite not keeping up his end of the deal, with a taped recording depicting Big U pressing the club owner and promising to tear the club up if he didn't get what he wanted, apparently vowing to bring 5,000 Rollin 60s members to destroy their club if he wasn't paid the money, and famous people weren't safe either. The criminal complaint would mention a litany of celebrities and athletes that had paid Big U a checking-in fee when coming to LA, checking in being an extortion method that out-of-town people often fall into, as they're pressured to get into contact with the local gang members, this often involving payments for protection and to not get robbed. The criminal complaint explained that checking in was a street tax that had to be paid to guarantee safety from gangs and criminals in the city, and according to the complaint, the Big U enterprise claimed control of LA and expected to collect tax from entertainers in the city conducting certain types of legit or illegal business. The criminal complaint complaint outlined an incident where boxer Adrian Broner and his friends were part of a fixed dice game against some NBA players, who then checked in with Big U and allegedly paid him $100,000, after which Big U gathered his goons and went to confront Broner, allegedly roughing him up along with his friends for not checking in and for apparently cheating NBA players out of their money. But even as far back as 2020, people on Reddit would debate why Big U pretends to be a reformed gang member whilst also openly enforcing the checking in extortion method publicly. People knew that he was living a double life years ago, and this was an open secret in LA. Big U would even be seen in video clips on social media going to film sets where he had apparently forced the production to check in with him, saying that if they didn't, he would be taking all of their equipment.
Movie production in the hood. That's how we do it, young man.
Top flight, baby. Security.
GB running this here movie set in the hood.
Come on out here.
Coming out here and checking in with GB, getting these movies done. You better know it. You know, anytime you want to do movies in the hood, just check it in. We can make sure it's done. Movies, videos. But if you don't check it in,
Oh well. Let's go check your
we're gonna check you in, all right. We're gonna check in all of your equipment. We're gonna check in all of your equipment.
Big U was openly the gatekeeper for LA check-ins, warning out-of-towners in numerous clips that if you choose not to check in, you're not safe and you'll suffer the consequences, as well as saying that he too checks in when going to other cities.
When I go to Chicago, I respect Chicago wholeheartedly. I check in. When I go to Atlanta, I check in. When I go places, I check in. And I don't think nobody is safe. I know dudes right now from LA who are actual gang members who have been robbed for their jewelry, who real killers, like who really real killers. Like if he ever find out who did that, he gonna knock everybody down. You understand what I'm saying? You just caught slipping. You know, that's how it is. You know what I mean? And you try your best not to be slipping. And if you have the means not to, why do it? You know what I mean? And it's just about, sometimes it's about respecting, you know, yourself and then trying to get home. So, I mean, you know, I hear a lot of back and forth on that, but I mean, I don't know that it's a perfect answer other than me, myself, I check in.
But it appeared that Big U even had issues with podcasters like Gilly and Wallow of $1 Million worth of game.
Gilly and Wallow, they got a problem. I come to Philly, them the only two dudes I'm looking for. I don't got no problem with nobody else, no beef with nobody else but Gilly and Wallow right now.
Wack 100 and Loose Cannon would both tell academics that the Rollin 60s, on the orders of Big U, once stripped Gilly and his son and sold their jewelry for $100,000, with Wack 100 also revealing that Nipsey Hussle allegedly ended up giving Gilly $20,000 back because he felt bad for him.
Man, you better ask Gilly. Gilly
no?
No, Gilly got stripped down by the homies because of Big U.
Wait, Gilly?
Yeah, the homie Rose and them stripped.
We're talking about Gilly the kid. We're talking about the guy with the podcast. We're talking about $1 million worth of game.
Yep. He got his son stripped down, and they stripped down Gilly.
What do you? Like for what? Like what? What do you mean? Gilly never got robbed though.
Yeah, him and his son got stripped. They stripped him in the 60s. Big U lined them up. They stripped them, took all their jewelry. And did it, came on the stage and said he did it, and get mad at me like I did it. I ain't did it. I ain't do it. I wasn't there.
No.
What mad at me for?
Gilly official from Philly, man. Gilly not going like that.
Gilly had his hands up in the air with his two kids. A father that couldn't protect his two kids. That's what he is. I told that, look, bro, don't be popping at me because with another saying, nigga, that from Rollin 60 Crip for real. Everybody know that is. He telling you, Big, you lined your punk ass up. Now, if you got your ass robbed over there, you and your kids, he said Nipsey went over there and gave it $20,000 because he felt bad for him.
However, it seems that whatever may have happened, Gilly would repair the relationship with Big U, as they could later be seen acting very friendly with each other. But no one was safe from the Rollin 60s extortion racket. But it seemed that the biggest targets were grey market businesses that couldn't rely on the law to protect them, particularly unlicensed smoke shop dispensaries, with Big U and his henchmen allegedly running an extortion racket where they would charge protection money to a store and rob them if they didn't pay up. In some cases, robbing them and giving some of the proceeds back if they agreed to line up other robberies and to prove what they were capable of doing. Footage of one armed dispensary robbery allegedly carried out by Rollin 60s on a dispensary that happened to be owned by Nipsey Hussle and Black Sam would even circulate on Reddit, and this is where Loose Cannon enters the picture. According to some sources, Loose Cannon, real name Tremaine Ashley Williams, had a tough upbringing in South Central LA, losing his father to a death sentence in prison. Loose found himself deep in the politics of LA streets and prison yards, eventually turning to the music business as a producer, making beats for people around him like Nipsey and Draco the Ruler, before turning to rapping himself, collaborating with Nipsey Hussle during his come-up, and allegedly almost getting signed by none other than Dr. Dre, who according to Luce produced his song Bringin' California Back featuring Nipsey Hussle and YG. But in the end, Dr. Dre ended up signing Kendrick Lamar, as he considered him to be the safer choice who didn't have as many potentially disruptive ties to the streets.
Some piece to Nip, man.
Yeah.
You had a record with him in 2013, right?
Yeah. Bringing California Back, produced by Dr. Dre, with featuring YG.
Hold on, you said produced by Dre.
Yeah.
Dr. Dre.
Yeah.
Like Andre Young.
Yeah.
Oh, worked with Dre?
Yeah.
How closely did you work with Dre on that? You just got the beat, or you were able to link with him?
When I went to jail, he was like, he wanted to sign me or whatever. It was me, Nip, and Kendrick Lamar. So at the end of the day, he was like, y'all getting people killed, out there. I don't want to be around with this gangbang. I learned my lesson from dealing with the last situation, and he chose Kendrick Lamar.
That makes sense.
However, in another early interview, Luce would also imply that he was in fact the producer of the song, making the melody of the beat with a church piano while being locked up.
So you basically wrote everything. Did you produce that track too, right?
Yeah, I produced it. I did everything.
So when you're in jail, how were you able to kind of make that beat?
They had church, right?
Okay.
I used to go in the church, use the keyboards like that. That's how I did it. And it came out dope. So.
No, for real. I remember that was the first song I actually heard, that you created and that you were in. I was like, hell yeah, this is dope as hell, because you had YG and Nipsey, and it was about, bringing Cali back, the hardcore, just kind of a party vibe with it too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, just when I do music, and people don't even understand the hook, me singing on it, rapping, I did so it's I do everything. I make it easier for other artists.
Perhaps the beat might have been a collaboration between Luce and Dre, although according to a poster that was posted by Luce himself, the producer is tagged as Buckwheat on the beat, but perhaps this version was a remake. But anyway, Luce has indeed allegedly racked up production credits and writing credits on projects with numerous major artists like Rihanna, Snoop Dogg, The Game, Nas, and 50 Cent, and he supposedly even worked as the opening act for Drake and 21 Savage during their It's All a Blur tour, although he's not included in the Wikipedia page about the tour for some reason. These discrepancies seem to raise some interesting questions about Luce's background, or lack thereof. In fact, according to Luce's twin brother Jermaine Williams, much of Luce Cannon's alleged music production credits are actually not true at all.
Even though he has a little bit of music on his platform, he's got the Draco song, he's got the Nipsey song, he has claimed all kind of music success with people that I know for a fact he doesn't even know. He don't know Nas. But the Luce Cannon I know has worked with Nas for probably a decade. He doesn't know none of these other people that he's claimed to produce, that he's worked with. Have you heard some of his claims of his music success?
I could only go by what I did for him. He have songs with Game. He got songs with J-Rock. He got songs with Nip, YG. Songs that I produce. I can't speak on anything that he's produced. I mean, that I heard little clips. People send me little clips. He would have been too young to work with these folks when they was doing their music and they did hits and all that stuff. So if people wants to believe the that he says, so be it. All I could do is say what I did with him.
Moreover, LA YouTuber Street TV, together with guests like the rappers Munchie B and Spider Loke, have claimed that Luce has stolen his entire public persona from an older hip-hop industry insider that also has the name Luce Cannon.
Got me on this Luce Cannon, anti-Luce Cannon, anti-fake Luce Cannon campaign is because I have a personal friend that I've known since, I want to say 13 years old, 14 maybe, that goes by the name Luce Cannon. That's been in the music business since I've known him. That he's introduced me to some of the biggest rappers that I've ever met. I met them through the real Luce Cannon.
Because you guys, I believe this is the reason why Luce Coochie Lips Cannon chose Luce Cannon as a name to run with, because of the credits that were already attached to it and the lack of a apparent profile that was so obvious. Because if you from rolling anything, especially 60s, I don't care if it's 90s, 40s, 30s, anything, and you have a name that includes O's, to eliminate the O's is so contrary to what we do when we play with words and represent what we represent. He had to take that name for the purpose of receiving the exact same credit that your partner was getting.
The real Loose Cannon hit me up during the MySpace years.
That's what it was, MySpace.
And he asked me, who is this dude, Loose Cannon? He's supposed to be from 60s. And I remember I think he called Steve Lobel because he knew Steve Lobel was tapped into the 6-0s. And he said that, I think Steve Lobel told him that, oh, it ain't nobody, there's nothing to worry about.
Oh, my mama, dad, homies, daughters, lokes, loved ones, everything I love and live for, my sister and my sons. Just the same thing I did. It wasn't Steve, but I hollered at Big U. He called me back with the exact same report, bro. Back in 06, when I ran across this content of Loose Coochie Lips Cannon lying on me, claiming he had met me and disrespected me, and I had no idea he existed.
I told you, don't say cuz, you not no Crip.
Look how far he would go. That's why you guys know he been trying this since 06.
Normally I wouldn't care.
Right.
But I grew up with the real Loose Cannon.
Right.
The real Loose Cannon is getting calls all the time about what this dude is doing, about claims that he's been with other celebrities that the real Loose Cannon never been with. So he's got to take these calls. Nah, I never did a song for 50 Cent. He has worked with Nas. He has worked with some major dudes.
Right.
This dude, the fake dude, is just putting it all out there.
Robbing dispensaries is one thing, but robbing song credits and your entire career history is just wild. But Loose's former partner, Jasmine Gigi Adams, also told Street TV that Loose has told many outlandish lies about himself, painting him as a possible pathological liar.
Tremaine, he kind of gets you into a place. I mean, it's real intense. When he first meets you, as you guys can all see, I'm sure, from the interviews that everybody has seen, the lies are outlandish, and he's very good at, when he's outed for the lies, he'll come up with an even bigger lie. And then he's got, little minions around him to support the lies, and then, next thing you know, you don't know what to believe, even though you have the proof in front of your face.
Okay, all right. How about Nas?
No, Nas is cool.
Okay, yeah, what was it like when you were working with him?
It was just like, cuz was gifted a whole nother level. So it was like a different vibe. It was like out of here. It's like a different atmosphere.
What did you do with him?
Produce for him.
Oh, what did you produce?
The song with him and what's that fat thing? I produced so many records, I'll be forgetting the damn names.
But I think that was kind of the reason why I stayed, because the fake Tremaine it's not like he had tons of money or anything when I met him. So I think it was more so about myself. It was just me.
When you look back at it, was there anything about him that you actually liked?
He was very persistent. He was showered you right away with just like flowers, very persistent and, taking you out, kind of just treating you like, like a lady. He never pressured you for sex or anything like that. He was just very persistent, kind of came off as a gentleman. And then of course he's, telling you these lavish stories. I own Subways, I own GameStops, I have my life together type thing and stuff like that. And I had my own businesses too. So it was kind of like he makes you feel like you've met your match.
But whatever the case, Loose Cannon would eventually find himself in the podcast world, appearing frequently on LA's leading rap culture podcast, No Jumper, arguably becoming a loose link when it came to the secretive code of the streets. But before Loose had fully transitioned to a more sanitized media presence, he was allegedly towing the line for Big U in the streets, specifically conducting robberies of dispensaries that were being shaken down. According to the criminal complaint, on July the 5th, 2021, a robbery went down at an unlicensed dispensary that had been paying up to $25,000 a month to the Big U enterprise, but they ultimately got tired of being extorted and decided to stop paying up. On that day, 11 thugs were sent to the store, including Loose Cannon personally, with them running into the dispensary with guns and masks, robbing the store of cash, stock, and even sticking up the customers. Apparently during the robbery, one of the masked men put the store owner on the phone with Big U, who invited the victim to to his home, and when he arrived there, he found Big U and the robbers with the proceeds of the robbery, telling the victim that he just robbed himself, giving him back some of the stolen things and demanding $10,000 so it doesn't happen again. Now, this is a crazy extortion method as it is, but to make matters even more crazy, years later, after falling out with Big U whilst on the No Jumper podcast, Loose Cannon would discuss this incident openly, saying how he found it strange how Big U would send them out on robberies and then the victims would later turn up to take their things back.
So basically it's like, cause he'll be like, he'll manipulate things, like we'll go and do something and the same we do it to show up to the house like 10 minutes later when we trying to counting everything, right? And we be like, how the f they get the, oh well, we're gonna just give them like $40,000 back and stuff like that, but cuz it's actually putting us in paperwork, right?
Luce also claimed that Big U had supplied guns to the homies but noted down the serial numbers for these guns as collateral.
Seen the get like 20 guns, and when he got 20 guns he's selling them to the homies, but I'm like, why are you writing down the serial numbers? So it's like he was doing like that, and I didn't catch on. So it was like, I'm waking up now. You get what I'm saying? Because I'm his right hand man. You get what I'm saying? So when it came down to like dirt and stuff like that, I'm gonna get it. You get what I'm saying?
Ultimately, it would seem that Loose Cannon's fallout with Big U was a big contributor to his downfall, as Loose would go on podcasts and lives on his own social media and speak openly about illegal things that he had done under Big U's leadership. Another crazy situation that emerged in the criminal complaint and on a podcast was an apparent run-in with the rapper Meek Mill, where Loose and other 6'0s had allegedly grabbed hold of Meek at a venue and threatened to kill him unless Rick Ross, Meek Mill's label boss, gave them $50,000, which was apparently paid up.
I heard Wack on the interview talking about what I did to Meek Mills.
Wait, you did something to Meek Mill?
Oh Lord.
You said y'all was trying to kidnap him. No, that's cap. There was a big U portion of it.
Yeah. So basically, Meek Mills was talking real reckless on Twitter and stuff like that. So
talking reckless.
Doing
it now.
Yeah. So we caught him at the club where he was performing at. As soon as he walked in or whatever, all the security that was with him, they spent around and grabbed Cuz. Get on the phone with Ross.
Honey, all right, that's enough now. We're not going to tell all the details.
No, we got to hear this one.
I said, get on the phone with Ross.
This one going to go high. What?
Get on the phone with Ross, neighborhood Crips. So he got on the phone with Ross. I took on the phone with Ross.
Wait.
Because we needed that bag.
But he owed y'all money?
No, he didn't owe no money. We took the money.
Oh, this was an extortion? Oh,
not extortion.
All right.
See, yeah, we don't want
to. See, I might have to probably bail him out after this interview.
We don't want to.
No. We would just say Meek Mill stench on him. It's fine. Meek ain't gonna tell.
Look, we don't want to get the extortion part. It was just a business transaction. You get
how much y'all charging?
50. That's it.
50,000?
Yeah.
I hear Rose. Hey, look, I got this. You got this artist you pumping. You don't want this to get out. We need 50. He brought 52, Crenshaw, and 48. He brought that money. He brought it fast. And when he brought it, I hit Big Useless and said we on our way. Gave Meek Mills his stuff back and left.
Now, for the record, Meek Mill later denied this, and if one thing's clear, Loose Cannon is certainly somebody that will happily lie for clout. But Loose was seemingly so fresh out the streets, he didn't seem to realize that he shouldn't have been talking so openly about these crimes on podcasts. Combine this with the comments that he made about Nipsey Hussle's death and the subsequent cease and desist Big U sent to No Jumper, it was then emerging that Big U had a serious problem on his hands, as the inner workings of his street empire were now being aired out on podcasts for the whole world to hear. Apparently, as a result of a fallout between the two, Loose Cannon was now openly disrespecting Big U any opportunity that he had. But this wasn't just a spontaneous switching of sides. In actual fact, it seemed that Big U's downfall was orchestrated by one man, a former friend turned mortal enemy named Wack 100, who after befriending Big U's former enforcer Loose Cannon would discover a shocking revelation that Big U might have been involved in a sloppy murder in Las Vegas, with Wack ultimately conspiring to drip feed the information to the public and Big U himself in order to accelerate the downfall of his former friend turned enemy. But Wack 100 couldn't take all the credit, as the reality is the downfall of Big U was seemingly his own doing, as the 2025 criminal complaint would reveal just how dark and badly executed this alleged murder was. But despite this, it would be 4 years before anyone would learn the details, and by then it would be far too late for Big U to escape these serious charges. The extortion empire of the Big U enterprise was apparently just the tip of the iceberg when it came to the crimes committed by the alleged leader of the Rollin 60s. The 2025 criminal complaint would shockingly allege that Big U kidnapped and murdered a victim named as RW in response to disrespect from that individual, but the truth of that story is much darker than anyone could have possibly imagined. The young man in question was named Rayshawn Williams, a young football player who had personally been coached by Big U and was a close friend of his son who went on to play for the LA Chargers in the NFL. Highlights of Rayshawn playing had circulated online when he was still a teen. Previously touted as a talented player to watch, his career was slowed by a knee injury that had him off the field for a whole season. He was apparently being courted by UCLA until his injury, and by 2018 he would officially no longer be on the team. Big U had reportedly not only coached Rayshawn in football growing up, but Rayshawn actually lived with Big U and his family for a brief period during high school, with Big U actually kicking him out after he stole a chain from his son and wore it to school. But despite the apparent brief fallout, Big U was allegedly still playing a supportive role in Rayshawn's life as he tried to find another career path following his football injury, and it would seem that he decided to give music a try. Rapping under the name Young Judah, from May 2020, he would tease his upcoming musical debut in the form of an EP called Golden Dreams, which dropped in June 2020. Clearly an aspirational title, Rayshawn had high hopes for his rap career, continuing to tease his project as months went by. Unfortunately, his music wasn't really hitting. He would post snippets of songs that he had made on his IG, and things weren't exactly industry ready. In one song he called himself Ray Hustle, an ironic reference to Big U's other murdered protege, Nipsey Hussle. As time went on, Rayshawn would post more snippets, and he seemed to be improving as a rapper song by song, even turning on the auto-tune and having a crack at making more emotional pain music. Despite not having success off music yet, Rayshawn was already living the high life, posting pictures of himself chilling in luxury properties. Curiously, he would make one post with a caption saying that some people think that he's rude. Anyway, he continued to experiment, dropping more snippets of music that he'd been working on, and showing himself in Las Vegas on numerous trips throughout 2020. But apparently behind the scenes, there was some kind of disagreement between Rayshawn and Big U, who had been apparently trying to help him get his music career going. Big U was apparently bankrolling Rayshawn's trips to a studio in Las Vegas to record music, but he was seemingly using his time in the wrong kind of ways. According to the criminal complaint, on January the 20th, 2021, Rayshawn allegedly recorded a diss song where he seemed to suggest that someone would get shot in the face over money, with feds making the suggestion that he was actually dissing Big U. It being believed that there was a dispute over Rayshawn wasting Big U's studio time and not making the most of the time that he had been gifted, with reports from another person involved in organizing the studio sessions that Rayshawn had been skipping out and having too much fun during a week where he was supposed to be making a song a day. The day after the alleged diss song, Rayshawn releases a different song as a snippet to his Instagram where he indeed seems to be dissing someone, rapping about how he doesn't need to hate someone he's disagreeing with, but he wishes them the best, and dismissing any criticism that they've made, saying how he doesn't hear it and they should say it with their chest, ending with a sly lyric saying that he's supporting his friends by buying all their merch, and dissing someone for being a snitch and saying how they would get killed for that. It's unclear if any of these lyrics were indeed intended as a sneak diss towards Big U, as he wasn't mentioned specifically. However, the Instagram post that included this song, eerily, was the only one on his page that Big U had liked publicly. It's highly possible that he perceived this as disrespect and was letting Rayshawn know that he had his eye on him. According to the criminal complaint, it's alleged that 2 days later, on January the 21st, interestingly, this being Big U's daughter's birthday, Big U and Vay, aka Robinson, drove from Los Angeles to Las Vegas, arriving at the studio unexpectedly, causing the studio security to be confused and ask a lot of questions. According to the later full indictment, Big U had gone there to confront Rayshawn about his lack of production during the allotted studio time, then later going to Rayshawn's Airbnb at 2 AM to ask him why he hadn't been at the studio the previous day and calling him out for disrespecting the Big U enterprise. The next day, on January the 24th and into the night of the 25th, Big U was at a recording studio with Rayshawn and somebody else known only as Witness 2. Big U arrived at the studio around 7:04 PM, with Rayshawn arriving an hour or two later, recording a song from 11 PM until midnight, but clearly whatever Rayshawn recorded or said didn't quite cut it for Big U, and things were about to get dark. Then, at 12:37 AM, Big U left the studio, apparently driving Rayshawn back to his Airbnb. During this journey, at 12:58 AM, Big U's phones were turned off. Interestingly, in a 2021 Drink Champs interview, Big U had mentioned how phone data makes it impossible to get away with crimes these days.
The unique thing is, because of the way we are right now, we'll never have these stories. Because the camera ain't gonna let it, the one on the street corner. The phone ain't gonna let it, the one that's telling everything. And it's just not, these stories will become what the mafia stories were.
But anyway, perhaps some kind of conversation on that ride between Rayshawn and Big U took a bad turn, leading U to make a decision to do something extreme. By 1:13 AM, Big U had pulled up to the spot where Rayshawn was staying, with Rayshawn spending 10 minutes gathering his belongings and returning to the car with a suitcase. Despite being scheduled to stay at the Airbnb another day, based on the details in the paperwork, Big U would drive with Rayshawn to a location on the I-15 highway. Allegedly, it was here that he would pull off the road, shooting Rayshawn dead and dragging his body into a remote spot off the highway into the desert of Las Vegas near a landfill, with the later indictment showing an image of the crime scene where the body had been found with multiple gunshot wounds to the head. Investigators did test drives to prove that the drive to the location where the body was found matched the amount of time that it would have taken from the car departing from Rayshawn's B&B and then from the murder location to where Big U's phone was turned back on, and started reporting location data once again, which was around 2:15 a.m. Within an hour of turning his phone back on, Big U returned to the recording studio covered in sweat, telling those there that he had just been to the gym. Interestingly, days later, Big U demanded the removal of all surveillance and recording equipment and evidence from the studio after he left, with detectives believing that the footage would have shown an altercation between Big U and Rayshawn that took place before the murder. In the early hours of the morning after the murder, according to the paperwork, Big U would leave Las Vegas for Los Angeles, with North Las Vegas Police Department agents discovering the body in the desert near the Apex landfill the following morning, with cops immediately theorizing that the murder had taken place right at the side of the I-15 roadway based on their discovery of blood and drag marks leading to where the body was found. A News 3 Las Vegas article would immediately report the news, telling the public how the police had received a call from a member of the public who found a body laying in a deserted area near Las Vegas and Clark Peterson Boulevard near the Apex. This is a barren and open desert space, which while deserted, doesn't seem like a place a body would be hard to miss out in the open in the daytime, but it's likely that Big U drove off this unmarked verge on the edge of the I-15 in the darkness of night, thinking that this would be a remote place to drag and leave the body, perhaps not realizing that this was right next to quite literally the largest and busiest landfill in the entire world, with Big U arriving back in Los Angeles an hour after the body was found in the Vegas desert. NLVPD would break the tragic news to Rayshawn's mother, who provided more backstory, telling them that Big U and Rayshawn were close and how he would usually call his mother weekly, but after the murder, the calls abruptly stopped, and Rayshawn's mother had apparently called Big U to confront him after the disappearance of her son, with Big U denying that he'd seen or heard from him. Big U even tried to cover his tracks by replying to an Instagram DM from Rayshawn the day after the murder, but nothing happened for 2 years it would seem, and what's really fascinating is that Big U was right back to business after this alleged incident, arriving back to Los Angeles and beginning to promote his upcoming documentary, Hip Hop Uncovered, due to be released in a matter of weeks on FX. Meanwhile, the Crenshaw High football Instagram page would announce the death of their former wide receiver Rayshawn Williams. His teammates would pay tribute to him in their Twitters, but curiously, Big U didn't once acknowledge the death of this young man who had been so close to him and his family for years. Weirdly, Big U never acknowledged this death of someone so close to him, but when Gilly's son Cheese was killed, he made a heartfelt post on the Unique Music account pleading, "Why are we losing our sons to the streets?" But then again, this could have been trolling, as Big U and the 60s were rumored to have robbed Gilly and his son years earlier, and U would post other tributes to other deceased youngsters that his friends had lost, but curiously, nothing about Rayshawn. But as the days went on, Big U would continue to promote his upcoming FX documentary. He was enjoying his newfound fame, posting a clip of himself getting lint rolled by the wardrobe department, showing the world that he was now a superstar 60.
You did it before? Go ahead. I'm gonna hug you. They're about to put a Sephora in the 60s. Over here, get over here. Yeah, make sure you hit him with the blood.
On February the 8th, he would post a cryptic message saying that nobody cares about the truth when the lie is more entertaining. After this, Big U would take to Instagram again to celebrate a billboard for his show placed on Sunset Boulevard, even pulling up to the scene to make a video saying that people are saying that they should stay away from Big U.
Trick. What? They say stay away from Big U, cuz.
They lying, cause look, Big U got us on the billboard on Sunset.
Sunset.
He on Sunset.
You see that? All up in that mic, you see that say,
Dang!
Big U was laughing at his haters and seemingly sneaking a shot at Nipsey Hussle, saying that the marathon continues.
The marathon continues, goddammit.
This was the opposite of laying low. Big U was soaking up the spotlight despite allegedly killing a close family friend less than a month before this. And the spotlight would shine brighter when eventually Hip Hop Uncovered would drop on February the 12th, 2021. Big U would tease part of the upcoming show, posting a clip where Wiz Khalifa described him as the Godfather and claiming that you can't do anything in rap without Big U being consulted.
If I was to describe Big U's role in rap, he would definitely be the Godfather. Can't do nothing without consulting him. He's the only guy who does move how he moves.
He was involved with Nipsey. He had a relationship with Death Row.
People from certain neighborhoods' names would ring bells, and his name was ringing a lot of bells.
U was at the top of the game within just weeks of this alleged murder, and now his story was being broadcast to millions of people on television. Hip Hop Uncovered would break down the life story of Big U in selective detail. It would include interesting tidbits, like a segment where he said that if he doesn't answer the phone, it can mean somebody dies.
People don't understand that sometimes if I don't answer the phone, it could be death for somebody else.
One of Big U's closest confidants and future co-defendant Bearclaw would even congratulate him on Instagram with a caption saying, "When you sit down and put your mind to it, anything is possible." But clearly behind the scenes, there was pressure on Big U. He would make a post at the start of March, seemingly angry about people coming to him with negative questions and saying that he wants people to keep him out of silly stuff, notably with the comments turned off. He'd post more cryptic statements to Instagram, like this one that says that he respects any man who can heal a heart that he didn't break and raise a child that he didn't make. Perhaps a coded admission of failure, alluding to efforts to help Ray Sean with his football coaching and rap career that ultimately he didn't have the patience to complete. The later criminal complaint would recount a recorded conversation where Big U allegedly seemed to allude to killing a kid who disrespected him and calling out people who thought he was retired. Ultimately, Big U might have just made the biggest mistake of his life, but it would be years before people truly found out all the sordid details of this deadly case. And in those years, not only did more extortion and pressing take place, but the chaos of LA streets would find its way to the podcast world, culminating in a dramatic downfall as several high-profile social media figures slowly pieced together the details of this murder and aired it out on podcasts for the whole world to hear, until finally the Fed stepped in and brought things to an explosive end. Ultimately, the feds were on Big U for several years before they finally closed in, and he no doubt knew something bad was coming. On the 2-year anniversary of Ray Sean Williams' murder, North Las Vegas Police Department agents visited Big U's home, but he wasn't there. His wife then called him on his father's phone to warn him, with Big U sounding notably shaken, and then opting to stay away from home for a couple of weeks, something apparently out of the ordinary for his usual routine. Apparently the cops and the FBI tried to contact a number of people involved in the case, and every time Big U was one step ahead, even tampering with witnesses and attempting to make sure their statements were not incriminating. Big U was being surveilled heavily in the lead up to the arrests. The criminal complaint would break down details of all the times that Big U was recorded, bragging about using violence and fear to control his communities. And he would seemingly be pulled over and served a warrant for his DNA sample in the summer of 2023. In the lead up to the arrest, as 600 and whack begun circulating the rumors of this case getting serious, Big U took to social media to say that the allegations were untrue and that people blame Big U for everything, alluding to new rumors that he was involved in the murder of Fats, Nipsey's best friend.
Don't worry about this, man. Y'all gotta understand, man. People gonna talk. These lanes make money off of using Big U name. One thing is for certain, right? Everything they say, Big U did it, man. They got me doing so much. I don't even know what. I don't even know what I'm talking about. Then I didn't do it.
Got you a whole bunch of different places at one time.
At one time. They say, y'all, you know, it's another new one too. I got into it with Fats. Let me give y'all the information on it. I ain't never got into it with Fats. Fats is my little homeboy. Ever in my life, me and Fats ever got into it with nobody. Never. Ever. You really stupid and you really the biggest selling name on the West Coast, you gotta say Big U name. You wanna sell something, Big U. They wanna do something, Big U. They wanna do Big U. Big U. Y'all don't get that yet?
But it was on the 17th of March 2025 when the music would finally stop and the feds would close in on Big U and the Rollin 60s. A huge 107-page criminal complaint would be filed outlining the sordid details of Big U's alleged criminal empire that had terrorized LA for years. And 2 days later, arrests would be taking place. The operation, called Operation Drawdown, no doubt titled to make a tongue-in-cheek reference to the downfall of Draws, aka Big U, was announced by the LA District Attorney and the FBI in a press conference that described Big U as a career criminal.
Today, we're here to announce federal criminal charges against Eugene Henley Jr., a career criminal known as Big U, who used his contacts and leadership role in the Crips criminal street gang, the entertainment industry, and a youth charity to further his own criminal enterprise, an enterprise engaged in murder, extortion, robbery, COVID fraud. Henley engaged in a murder of a musician signed to his label in 2021 and dumped the victim's body in Las Vegas off of the I-15 freeway. He then attempted to evade and obstruct the investigation into the murder, including ordering witnesses not to speak with law enforcement.
The DA would even reveal that they had been following Big U's podcast activities as part of the investigation.
Here, as I said, Mr. Henley is a widely known leader within the Rollin 60s. He rose to prominence in that gang decades ago, and he has since been a fixture on the internet, talk shows, and podcasts. all things that law enforcement have looked at closely as part of this investigation.
The criminal complaint was surprisingly comprehensive and revealed that the feds had been looking into the case since February 2021, just a week after the murder of Rayshawn Williams, describing Big U as the leader of the Rollin 60s Crips, running it as a mafia-like organization. It used wiretaps, planted cameras, cell site information, as well as search warrants of social media, iCloud and Google accounts, and financial records belonging to those involved in the alleged conspiracy, even using undercover agents to buy guns and drugs from people involved in the conspiracy. Big U, Loose Cannon, and even Brick Baby, who wasn't even named as a defendant in the complaint, had their phones tapped by the feds, and hidden cameras and bugged microphones were even planted at locations that they were known to visit. The criminal complaint even claimed that Big U and the gang were using podcasts and online documentaries, as well as interviews to make the public fear the Big U enterprise. Shout out to the FBI agent that's getting paid to watch this one. Thank you for your service. And the feds would even directly cite comments made on the No Jumper podcast as evidence. It was also stated that while Brick Baby wasn't a main defendant in the Operation Drawdown, he had a separate sealed indictment pending for a different case. Brick Baby's indictment revealed 2 counts for illegally having guns and bullets, one of these incidents allegedly taking place on the 12th of June 2022, when Brick would reportedly shoot a 9mm handgun in the parking lot of a business, with a second incident taking place on the 23rd of June 2023, when Brick would be arrested by the LAPD, who allegedly found him with 3 guns and more than 130 bullets, and since some weapons and ammunition may have come out of state, this immediately triggered federal charges. The paperwork would also show Brick's earlier criminal history at the time of this arrest, ranging from 2010 to 2020, including reckless evading, 2 counts of possession of controlled substances, criminal threats, and robbery. Hey, who said Brick ain't got a rap sheet, huh? And while Brick would not be charged on the Big U RICO case, the feds would note that Brick's case may be related, as it arises out of the same conspiracy. It would be revealed in news reports that hundreds of agents had executed simultaneous arrests targeting 19 defendants identified in the case.
Now, this morning, hundreds of agents and officers, including multiple SWAT teams, executed multiple arrest warrants for many of the 19 defendants charged in this case. Search warrants were executed at 6 locations. Those searches continue to be underway. 4 of the 19 defendants were already in custody, and 10 defendants were taken into custody in the last 24 hours. And while we're still seeking the whereabouts of 5 individuals, 3 of whom we believe we will have in custody shortly, 2 defendants are considered fugitives.
Approximately 10 defendants were arrested, including Loose Cannon and Brick Baby, with footage of Loose's arrest being filmed by his wife circulating online. But interestingly, at the press conference, it was announced that Big U was a fugitive and was still at large, despite the criminal complaint and pending charges.
Mr. Henley is a fugitive, and he is currently wanted by federal law enforcement.
The news would continue to report on the arrest, proudly showing collages of those targeted. Big U had been on the run and released a statement saying that he was with his family and planning to turn himself in, as well as suggesting that the case against him wasn't true and that he was just being hunted for helping black people.
This is my last video before I turn myself in. I'm with my family. Talk to my sons, I talk to everybody, man. I'm just saying, going to deal with this fight, see what it is. I just want y'all to know, all this stuff is quagmire. So, I just need y'all prayers. I need y'all to, I don't even know what to say. I'm 21 years, I elevated my family, come back, and right and do what I need to do until I can come back home. People are supposed to help me, I hope you help me. If you can't, you don't worry about it. A lot of stuff y'all hearing is straight trash. And I appreciate the love and I appreciate the people who've been helping me. I don't know. It's hard helping black people and not being hunted for doing it.
First Street, it might be to, I don't know if it's to the right or the left.
Reach out to anybody who can help me, y'all.
You hear me?
Help my own family. Appreciate y'all.
Big U would then take to social media once again to elaborate further on his feelings, firstly denying stealing money from developing options and claiming that the money he took was simply a salary that he used to pay his bills and feed his family.
I'm looking at this video as I come in to turn myself in, and I'm disheartened by the fact that they trying to say that I stole something from developing option, or I used developing option for the front. Developing option paid my bills. They paid my house note. They paid the bills for my family, the money I made from as an employee for developing option. I never mixed that with nothing. I didn't manipulate nobody. I didn't steal nothing. We did PPP loans. We did 2 loans. And that's it, just like everybody else did. I didn't use no fraud. I didn't give none of no fake names. And one of them we was paying back and one they forgave. You know what I mean? And the other one we attempted for and they didn't give us nothing for it. I filed my taxes and them coming around telling me I was using developing option as a cover. Cover for what? None of that's going to be true.
He would go on to claim that of the over dozen co-defendants in the case, many he doesn't even talk to.
The government putting this big picture, they going to arrest 21 dudes. Some dudes I don't even talk to. I don't even know nothing about.
Big U sounded defeated in these clips and told followers to pray for him, reflecting on all his achievements that he had made over his last 21 years of freedom.
It is what it is. Church, just pray for me. Just pray for me, pray for my family. And you look at what we did. You look at what I did. I've been home 21 years. It ain't over though.
Big U would go on to say that he doesn't talk to any of the other people arrested and that the cops might as well arrest 600 and whack since they're including his so-called enemies.
And then I'm looking at the people they arrested. How you gonna go arrest people that I don't even talk to? Everybody know I don't with Cannon. Everybody know I with Brick Baby. So if you went to arrest certain dudes, and put them next to me, them is the dudes you gonna have that call themselves turning against me. Well, ain't no turn against me. You might as well go get 600 and whack.
Big U even accused 600 of waiting outside of his house with the police to watch the raid, a response to the fact that he'd reposted footage from the raid on his socials.
One of us, it ain't nobody safe with these dudes. If these dudes feel they want you, how they going around talking about somebody's gonna raid my house before my house get raided? How they there with the police? 600 was actually with the police when they raided my house. And he's actually got video and footage of it. So y'all know what y'all dealing with. And I just want to say this to y'all. When they raided my houses and my property, they was asking about whack. Whack, loose cannon, 600, and this internet stuff.
Elsewhere, Big U would also suggest that whoever takes his spot as the leader of the 60s community movement must be working with Whack 100 to take that spot.
But y'all gonna be rolling with these dudes. And I got this last thing to say. Whack said he was gonna destroy developing option, right? So who gonna replace developing option? Which one of you in the 60s gonna call yourself coming in? Because whoever try to come in, y'all the ones that's working with Whack. Believe that. So remove me to get me out the way for somebody else to come in who gonna cooperate. That's what the play is.
Big U went on to blame Whack for working with the FBI to try and take away his government funding.
100 times he was gonna take my contracts. He working with the FBI. The FBI went to the city 3 days in a row and told the city they didn't want nobody to give me no more money. They went to all the different celebrities and told all the different celebrities, don't give me no money, don't help me, don't do nothing for me. They going around scaring and intimidating everybody.
Now, Big U calling out people shutting him down and saying they were scaring and intimidating people was pretty hypocritical. But from here, he would continue to pull the race card and claim that the FBI are trying to shut down black men doing right by their communities.
Trouble. Like y'all don't understand what the FBI do to black men who try to help their community. I ain't been nothing but a help to our community. But I guess it is what it is. This the price of being black and trying to help somebody, trying to help your community and do what you can. You're just guilty because somebody else don't like you and they go on the internet and do what they want to and y'all gonna promote it. It's crazy.
Now, it's this sort of thing that made Big U so dangerous, allegedly harming his own community under the guise of helping it and then hiding behind the race card when accountability came knocking. But ultimately, the facade had now been destroyed. The news would report on Big U going into FBI custody, describing him like a mob boss.
With breaking news, this just in, the FBI says that South LA crime boss Eugene Big U Henley is now in custody. Authorities say he ran a mafia-like organization while masquerading as a music mogul and gang peacemaker.
Some would report that the DA handling the case was looking at connections between Big U and Nipsey's murder as well. All this crazy news sent the podcast media space into a frenzy. A No Jumper News episode discussing the latest news went mega viral, reaching over 15,000 live viewers and racking up hundreds of thousands of views. Funnily enough, During a segment on the show while Whack 100 was calling in, the full criminal complaint dropped online. I actually read this immediately and even sent Adam22 a number of screenshots of details that related to No Jumper and his podcast shows, including the show with Whack, as well as the section about Whack being confronted by the Rollin 60s at the show at the Novo. In response to this, Big U's nephew, Tiny Draws, would post about the podcast saying that those people don't do anything for their communities and are snitches. The news sparked a raucous debate which went far beyond the walls of No Jumper. On social media, an apparent public hit was put on Christopher Lovejoy and Loose Cannon, and Whack 100 would claim that Brick and Big U were named in a sealed court file tied to a case against the New Jersey Rollin 60s, a case that led to the battle rapper Sue Surf being sentenced to 5 years in prison.
In Jersey.
What did Brick ever have to do with them? You think Brick is in some way complicit
Big U
with that?
too. He had a sealed file, the exposures, Prince, Lavish, pulled it up, we tracked the case number back to Sue Surf now. First we thought it was some dirt. It's not dirt. He got a sealed file, dope case, New Jersey. It's the same indictment. Sue Surf now. I know it is.
On the 26th of March 2025, a full indictment would be returned from a California grand jury, which formally charged Big U, They, Bearclaw, Loose Cannon, and 2 others with a litany of crimes. This reiterated the claims made in the prior criminal complaint, as well as provided several new key details and pieces of evidence that gave more insights into the alleged crimes committed, like pictures of the scene where Rayshawn Williams' body was found, or interesting details like the fact that Big U left the subpoena and a baseball hat associated with the Rollin 60s behind for the feds to find after they raided his home, and that Big U's social media messages while on the run were now being included as overt acts as part of the racketeering conspiracy. Sadly, it's not looking good for the Rollin 60 neighborhood Crips, especially Big U. In conclusion, it seems that Big U was perhaps one of the most infamous and feared Crips in LA history. No doubt he truly did run Los Angeles in a sense. Nothing could happen in the streets without him having a say, and if the indictment is to be believed, this was truly a dangerous man, willing and ready to kill at the slightest violation. A predator, preying on the weak and extorting those who were scared of his reputation with threats of violence that the whole city knew he was willing to follow through on. But really, this is also the story of a sick individual. I can't imagine how twisted someone would have to be to murder one of their son's childhood friends, one that they had personally coached in football as a child no less. If these allegations are true, then we're dealing with a very dangerous person put zero value on human life and was willing to kill a child they had seen grow up over something as trivial as a diss song or wasted studio time. That's one of the most dark and twisted things I have ever heard in a gang case, and if it's proven in court, then there's no doubt that Big U won't be seeing the streets again. But in Big U's defense, even though the criminal complaint paints a damning picture of the double life he was living, we can't necessarily overlook the actual good that he did do for his community. Although there's accusations that Big U scams may have reached all the way to the kids' toy drives, you can't remove all the toys, gym equipment, and other stuff that his organization did manage to donate to kids in need, or the countless hours that he personally dedicated to do something positive for the youth in his community. But then again, does that make it worse? Were the positive things Big U did in fact do for his community genuine efforts by a flawed gangster to take the right path, or are these also just calculated moves of a manipulative mastermind who masterfully used positive acts as a method to mystify and cloak a dark empire of murder and extortion? We'll have to see how this case plays out in court, but the sad truth is, if these allegations are true, the man who was doing the most for his community was also doing the most damage to it. Ultimately, sometimes it seems like the image that people try and portray can say more about what they're pretending to be rather than what they really are. I hope that Big U can get a fair and speedy trial, and if there's one thing that I've learned from this story, it's that if you are going to be part of a murderous gang conspiracy, maybe, just maybe, you shouldn't do any podcasts.